This week on the TBN Israel podcast, things are both better and worse in the Middle East. How does that make sense?
And can always escalate, Mati. This is what I'm saying.
They can always escalate, they can always diffuse.
Yeah, I'm here in America and people say, you guys are almost at war. And now we're like 10 times almost at war, but adding more friends around, like more forces from the United States, more forces from Russia, and other friends of this region. So It seems like, never say that it's the worst that it can get, because it can always get even worse and worse. And at the moment, we have the United States sending aircraft carriers into the region, fighter jets, and submarines that can carry ballistic missiles. So the situation feels a lot like the Cold War, at least to me, Mati.
So today on the TBN Israel podcast, we're following up on what we discussed previously. We started last week with what happens when Israel and Iran go full on one against the other with the allies. And what's happened since we recorded that last episode is things have become much more extreme. Many more foreign superpowers have brought their assets into the region. Israel and the Iranians are still on high alert. As we record this show, in Israel, we're in high alert, expecting the retaliation that hasn't come yet. And it's the same as it was a week ago, and the same as it was 10 days ago. And everything is getting more extreme, more tense. And at the same time, maybe that more extreme, more tense actually means that things are getting get better and are going to diffuse. So it's a very interesting time to be alive in.
And guys, with everything that's going on in this region, with forces moving and tensions rising, I would like to ask you to take an active part in what's going on here, because this war has been fought on multiple fronts, on the spiritual front, on the front for the public's opinion, and on the physical front. So if you want to help, you can share these videos, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and tell your friends about what is going on here in Israel, in this region, and in this conflict. And then you and them, you can pray for the situation. That's how you can help in this war. And it really helps us.
Yeah.
In the Middle East, we are used to threats usually mean that nothing will happen, because if you talk big, then you don't want to act big. So you're only speaking to please your supporters, your people, your bosses. So usually in the Middle East and in this region, when you hear the leaders say, we will destroy them completely, we will launch an attack that never happens, then usually either the attack is very small or there is no attack at all.
Yes.
But when nobody is talking, that's when you should fear, because that's when somebody is planning something big. So I don't know if Iran will follow through with its threats, but it seems like everybody around the world do not want this conflict to escalate into the next level. And when I say everyone, I'm talking about the United States, I'm talking about Qatar, moderate Arab states, the United Nations, European countries. These forces are implementing harsh pressure against Israel, against Iran, not to respond, not to attack, not to escalate the situation. And also, in the background of everything, we still have the talks about negotiations for a ceasefire and the release of the hostages between Hamas and between Hamas and Israel in the Gaza Strip. So this is all happening in the backdrop of everything. And of course, Yair and Mati, the leader of Hamas, wants the entire evil of Axis and Iranian proxies to join in the fight against Israel officially. That was his plan from day one of this war, and he still is holding on that. So this is where we're standing, Mati. We got a lot to discuss today.
We have a lot to cover today. Let's lay the groundwork for what happened previously that brought us to this day. We started today's episode by stating suddenly everyone around us is bringing their assets into this area. The Americans are bringing in essentially much of their naval assets that are in this region and from outside of the region. They're bringing in fighter jets. They're bringing in submarines, according to them. We've been moving forces. The Russians have been reinforcing the Iranians, but at the same time, there's been a really strong push from the international community. And also, if you read between the lines of the press releases between Israel and the Iranians, of trying to sort of bring things down to a more, I hate using this word, but a manageable level of conflict. And what led us all to this moment? Several weeks ago, by the time this is going to air, Israel struck in the heart of Tehran, the capital of Iran, and killed Ismail Haniyeh, the head, one of the two heads of Hamas. But they did it also in a way that was publicly humiliating to the Iranians. Since then, facts have come out, and the bottom line is Israel penetrated deep and strong into the organization of the Revolutionary Iranian Guard. They had intelligence on the ground, they had people on the ground, or we did, I should say, to the point where we had pinpoint information on where people were, what they were doing, and at the exact time. And the Iranians, again, this is a very long exchange of blows. Hezbollah attacks Israel, Israel attacks Hezbollah. Israel eliminates heads of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps or Hezbollah officials or whatever, and then they retaliate, back and forth. This was one step up, and the Iranians then said, okay, we're practically speaking taking off our gloves, now we're going all out. And at that moment, Israel says, wait a minute, the rules of the game have changed. We're no longer saying we're just going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now we're talking about infrastructure, and we're talking about a national level blow. That's what brought us to this game.
Mati, there's a saying that I learned recently. It's called tit for tat or something like that, right? So that's what it was. Like basically, I am proud of myself. My new word for the show. By the way, so they are punching us, right? And we are punching them at the same strength. And then next time they punch us a bit harder, then we retaliate a bit stronger. And I think that what happened this time is that Iran thought that, okay, they can continue the same punches and blows with a slower escalation every time, and Israel will play this game. But this time, Israel said, listen, we are not just waiting and waiting to absorb the punch and then we will respond in the same way. If you even lift your hand, we are punching strong and stronger than before, and we will take your economy down, and that's what we talked about in the previous podcast. But since then, nothing happened. And why is that? So I guess that the Iranians have either internal negotiations or discussions on whether this attack is worth it, worth the consequences that everybody is threatening will happen to them. And when I say consequences and threats, I mean, for one, the United States is bringing assets here, so there'll be a military response by Israel and the United States. This time Israel said we will attack infrastructures, all refineries, port cities, water installations. So all that will affect severely the economic situation of Iran and the ability for the regime to maintain its control in that country, especially now that there is a new president that was elected, that I will not say his name because I don't remember how to pronounce it well. Maybe you practiced a bit. We forgot to practice before this show, Mati.
Let me pull up my notes. Let me pull up my notes again. Yes, and this goes back to something we've discussed often, which is in the end, it is on the ground, it's Israel fighting against Iranian proxies. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, whatnot. But it's always a bigger game. And the bigger game is that Israel represents the interest of the American-led international alliance. And it's not just the United States, it's not just the US Defense Forces, it's also other Western countries. And it's not just the Iranians on the other side and their lackeys, their proxies, it's also the Russians and the Chinese behind them. And where we are right now is, I think you framed this perfectly, it's suddenly, we're not responding proportionally. And we said, okay, if this is what's happening, let's go, let's see what you got. And so everyone has to respond. You call the bluff, essentially like, let's see what you have to bring to the table. And Israel and everyone who's an ally of Israel had to respond. And there's no delaying with these kind of responses. It's not like, it doesn't work for me this week, can it come next week? It's you have to respond on the spot. So Israel sees the threat, we respond publicly. And this is what we talked about in the last episode. If you attack, we will bring you to your knees. We will, like you say, we will go after your infrastructure. And at the same time, the Americans say, you're not alone. And what you think we have in the Middle East, let's make this picture much more clear. Here are the numbers. And suddenly, like all these things that are usually classified are being released. We have submarines with intercontinental ballistic missiles in the sea next to Iran. We have attack submarines. We have aerial assets in greater numbers than we ever have before. We're bringing in an additional aircraft carrier. We're landing in additional special forces and advisors, as the American Army likes to call it, or special forces, into Bahrain and into Kuwait and other American bases around the Middle East. And everyone's pouring in all this energy, all these resources, because it could go one of two ways. It can go up in flames at the drop of a hat. Another Texan expression for you, Yair.
Listen, I got my Texan hat.
You got your. I know. I saw the hat. That's what I said. At the drop of a hat, it can go ballistic, and then at the same time, because everyone has shown their intent and the seriousness of their claims and their concerns, this also might be, in Hebrew we say the ladder to get off the tree. The Iranians climbed a very, very high tree. They need someone to help them come down without losing the entire tree on the process. So that might also happen.
That's true. So that might give them an excuse, because they said, okay, we want to destroy Israel, but we don't want another front against the United States at this moment. So maybe that will be kind of their excuse to get off the tree and to de-escalate the situation. But that's only one front. And it's not necessarily the Iranians' decision, because Hezbollah, we assassinated their chief of staff. So they have to respond severely as well. And they've promised to do so. I mean, but we see more and more, rockets attacks and drones attacks from the north. But that's kind of the normal rate. So it might be that the escalation will come from Hezbollah and not directly from Iran. And maybe Iran will say, okay, this is us telling them to do it, so that should be enough. And we'll see. But I don't know. It's very tricky that every button somebody pushes can cause an escalation and close to a world war, when the people sitting next to these buttons are kind of crazy, and like all, focused on destruction, hatred, and extremism. So this is the situation that we're sitting on. So, but I'm kind of thinking that because everybody's talking big, nothing big will happen. But it's a very, I wouldn't put all my eggs on that bet, because everything can change very fast here.
I think there are two processes.
With one human mistake,
Yeah. I think there are two processes that are hidden from the public eye at the moment that we're still not aware of. And it's in Israel, on the decision-making side, there's a growing voice of complaint within the Israeli public and also within the Israeli government. We just can't continue the way it is up north. Hezbollah, and again, if you're not following Israeli news on a daily basis, we release content on a daily basis that talks exactly about this. But northern Israel is taking missile attacks and rocket attacks every day of the week, every week, without any break whatsoever. And the public in Israel is getting very tired of it. And the government in Israel, and we're starting to see, even today, you'll start hearing blips come out from classified meetings where people are saying, look, we don't think we can just continue containing, which is a word that's used often in Israeli politics. We can't contain Hezbollah actions anymore. We have to act. And people are starting to call out Netanyahu on it, on saying, no one's stopping you from attacking Hezbollah. Let's see what you've got. And ministers within the government who are not in the limited, let's call it security discussions, or the small forum discussions, are starting to
small
pressure.
Council,
they're starting to publicly pressure Netanyahu and his small council, saying we're not okay with the way that things are going up north. Then there's a whole other process that's happening outside of Israel, which is the Iranians. And I think that's where things are really interesting. We're probably never going to know what really happened. I'm sure 100% what they're doing right now, waiting, is trying to seal all the intelligence leaks that they have, because they discovered all of a sudden that they have Israeli and Western people on the inside of their top level security, top level intelligence organization, top level everything within their government. And we've heard sort of like little rumors come out on the news of Iranians are arresting people, Iranians are interrogating people. Like, imagine what's going on in their mind, where they know how strong the intelligence leak and breach was on their side. They're probably trying to sort of do damage control before they move again.
True.
I think there's going to be a response because of that.
No, that makes sense because let me just explain where is this coming from? Because when we the Mossad, like assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, they did it using the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and this is according to foreign reports, that we used their own personnel in order to locate his room, place the bomb underneath the bed, and then, after the assassination, the Israeli Mossad helped these guys evacuate from Iran. So this is the situation. And then they think, okay, if there are 3 or 4 people that were accessed and compromised, there are plenty more that were. And that makes sense because this regime is poor. And I'm assuming that the Mossad and the CIA and other agencies have their ways of reaching these people with, tempting ideals to move to the other side. So that's kind of where this is coming from. But Mati, let's maybe go into numbers of weapons, arsenals. We got like a lot of notes on this on our call sheet. I think it's very interesting.
I'll make a side note. I've been, as I tend to do, I've been on a deep dive about submarines, watching a bunch of documentaries that have come out lately about the global powers of submarines, like sailing the seas of the oceans of the world, and it is terrifying.
Really?
there are quite a large number of countries in this world that even if the country ceased to exist overnight, they still had enough submarine power with nuclear weapons on them to bring the end of the world, just from their submarines at sea. Again, the official American numbers are, I think it's like 68 nuclear submarines that the Americans have, and some of them carry ballistic missiles that can, and again, like the numbers are staggering, that can launch a missile 12,000 kilometers through space. And missiles that are launched from the sea, underwater, go through space, navigate based on the stars in orbit, come down into the Earth, and then launch up to 12 warheads that are all nuclear, that can spread it over 1,500 kilometers. So just to give range, it could be an American submarine on the other side of the Mediterranean, isn't like on the coast of the UK, and it could launch missiles from there to the Arabian Sea.
China?
Also, a third way around the world, and it could land nuclear warheads across an entire country before anyone knew this was happening. That's one submarine with one missile. It has multiple missiles, and there are many, many such submarines, and that's just the Americans. The Russians have the same capabilities. They demonstrate them on a regular basis. Israel, according to foreign press, has the same capabilities. Also, the Indians have the same capabilities.
Place. Next time I'm going to swim in the sea, I won't be as relaxed as I am now. So, but anyways, other than submarines, what do we have coming? Okay, that's only one area that people are playing with, one toy. So we have, other than that, we have ships that can carry dozens of airplanes. Okay, so let's say people will not go to the nuclear option in this conflict because they want to survive. So by doing that, we need to move like kinetic weapons into the region, weapons that just cause explosions and bullets and stuff like that. So let's see what kind of stuff do we have here.
The Americans, again, to get these numbers sort of in proportion, the numbers don't always tell the full story because it's not only a quantitative question. It's a qualitative question. What is the quality of the soldiers? What is the quality of the tanks, the aircraft, the ships, and their range and their training level? And if you look at the numbers, like you look at the Iranians have several dozen, fighter jets. Those fighter jets are, some of them from the 70s. They're lacking parts. They're lacking training. It's not comparable to the fact that the U.S., according to their own reports, brought 20 or so F-22s on top of what already existed in the region just in the last couple of days into Israel. So they have additional fighter jets. And Israel has dozens of, we'll call them 4th gen, 5th gen, top of the line fighter jets that are in this country. And the Americans have bases spread throughout the Middle East, in Saudi, in the UAE, in several other places. They brought in aircraft carriers into the region. They've already, before that, had multiple, let's call it naval assets, destroyers, ships, aircraft carriers. It's just an enormous amount of assets. And they've brought in, and this is sort of when you try to compare the armies, the fact that the Russians have fighter jets in Syria isn't comparable to the fact that the Americans bring in a bomber unit. And the reason is the only army in the world, and this really is, when you really look at the logistical superpower, the only army in the world that's really able to bring in a bomber group from one side of the world to the other are the Americans. The American, and when I say army, again, I apologize, I'm thinking in Israeli language.
Yeah, it's small. It's small.
The Navy, the Army, the Marines, and the Air Force, all the branches of the American fighting forces, they have the ability to bring in a logistics super chain that carries from the aerial refueling abilities, through the supply ships, through the, we'll call it forces that can be airdropped, and all the assets that go with it. Their strike groups are much more than anything else that exists in this region. And it's not just a flexing of like, look how strong I am kind of thing. The Americans really have, on a logistical level, when they come into a region, and we've seen this in the 2 invasions of Iraq, we've seen this in the invasion of Afghanistan, when they say we're ready to go to war, they mean it. And when they bring in, they push all their plane pieces into this area. It's not saying to the Iranians, like, just be afraid. If things escalate, there is the option of going all out, of obliterating Iran, of blowing out of the sky every asset that the Russians can throw, every asset that the Iranians can throw in that direction, to the point where they would have no army to speak of in this region at the end of that conflict. And it wouldn't take them very long. And so again, we've talked about this in the beginning of the war. You can't undersell how much of a show of support America has done for Israel and for this conflict. It is much more than we could imagine. It is as much as you could ask of a friend and an ally.
Yeah, definitely. And just talking about the support from America to Israel, just in the past few days, America delivered another package of the aid money that was agreed between Israel and the United States. The total aid money, I think, was 14 billion, and now they transferred another 3 billion of that as part of the deal. This is money that is giving to Israel, but they need to spend it buying American weapons in this conflict. But still, this is really important now because in the past few months, we've been hearing talks about the United States trying to postpone or put pressure on Israel to have a ceasefire with the Gaza Strip, and that was kind of their leverage. So we will not give you this part of the deal if you continue fighting in Gaza. But this looks like it's off the table now because Israel and this region has a whole different level of conflict. Okay, so we are really at the brink of an all-out war on multiple fronts. I mean, you need to understand Israel is fighting in Gaza against Hamas since October 7th, every day, still missiles flying into Israeli communities, despite the fact that most of Hamas brigades and battalions have been dismantled, but they still are able to launch rockets towards the civilians of Israel. That's one front. In the north, you have around 60,000 Israelis that were evacuated from their houses and are living in hotels all over the country, okay, for 10 months now. And you have ghost towns because every day you have between 10 to 30 rockets, explosions that are landing in Israeli territory from Hezbollah. And Israel is responding to that, and the same happens in the Lebanese territory. You have around, 20,000 Lebanese or tens of thousands of Lebanese civilians that have evacuated their homes and moved up into, further away from the border with Israel. Then, of course, you have the Houthis in Yemen that joined the party, and they also train Iraqi militias in Iraq and Syria to launch attacks now against United States soldiers and special forces that are operating in that area, in Syria and Iraq.
Yes.
And then now the big threat is Iran wants to join in the party. And this is kind of the big story of what is happening in our little neighborhood, in our neighborhood, Mati. So
yeah, I think there's another side to it, which is time is running out. And the fact that time is running out is playing to our benefit, to Israel's benefit, not against it. And I'll explain that statement. To summarize everything you're saying, is the pressures aren't going away. They remain. They're constant. Hezbollah, Houthis, Iranians, that's a constant pressure. But Israel has a deadline, and it's no pun intended, but we can't wait forever on a hostage deal. We have to move forward. We have to move forward because there's mounting public pressure internally in Israel to deal and to get some kind of deal. I don't want to say at any cost, but at a high cost. And there's huge public pressure in Israel, demonstrations on a weekly basis, some weeks on a daily basis, for a deal to move forward with Hamas. Huge pressure internally in Israel. Huge pressure on Israel from the American administration to do the same thing, not to wait indefinitely. And then to add on to that, the American government is running out of time. President Biden and VP Harris, they have elections coming up. They don't want to postpone indefinitely till they sort of run out of time to deal with this. They want to be able to show an achievement, to say we've cleaned the table from this issue and we've brought some kind of, be it ceasefire, be it peace agreement, be it something that's a more lasting scenario where they're not going into full election season, having a full-on conflict going on tensions in the Middle East. They want to clear their bandwidth to deal with it, and they want to be able to show an achievement. And that's actually playing in Israel's benefit. VP Harris and President Biden, who've been publicly critical and pressuring Israel, have sort of said at this point, like, look, where we're at today, we're pushing forward our chips, we're pushing forward our assets to make sure Israel has all the support it needs to be able to resolve this issue. Not the entirety of the conflict, because the Iranians aren't going away, but this phase of Iran versus Israel conflict, to diffuse it or to blow it up, one of the two, in a way where we can, in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and in 30 days, say, look, we're done with this chapter, we can mark an achievement, we can celebrate this publicly, and we can move on to the next thing. So in that sense, that mounting public pressure internally in Israel, internally in American politics and the timeline that carries, and from outside of Israel on Israel, is actually playing to our benefit, putting pressure on everyone to try to resolve it. And in an odd way, the fact that Israeli politicians have felt free to speak in a more aggressive manner has actually done better for us publicly, because we've, Minister of Defense Gallant has been, he hasn't been this strong ever before in the war, essentially saying to the Iranians, like, we're taking you back to the Stone Age if you attack us. And it wasn't a metaphor, it was, we will blow up all your infrastructure, we're not afraid, and we're ready. IDF, I was looking yesterday, the day before, IDF spokesperson, their response to Iran, like the daily Iranian threats is, we're preparing, we remain prepared, period. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. And what I see that the threats are not just in vain is that the Israeli home front, which is in charge of telling the civilians how to prepare for an attack, what they're telling us didn't change. They say, keep going on with your day-to-day lives. We don't change any of the rules. If Iran attacks, prepare in your shelters, go to your shelters, but nothing changes. Life goes on in Israel. I'm here in the United States, and my main concern is how do I get back to Israel before the school year starts, so that my daughter will be able to begin her first grade on time. That's my main concern, is getting back to Israel, not like being afraid or staying here. So, I think that I speak on behalf of a lot of the Israeli public. Maybe I'm a bit glass kind of full guy, but I think that in general, the Israeli public is not afraid, and there's jokes running also on the Israeli media these days, like, Iran, stop with this foreplay. We don't care about the attack anymore. You pushed it too hard, okay? So you're not attacking. It's just a bluff. So nobody really believes it. It's like, okay, if you want to attack already. This is kind of the talk that I see on WhatsApp groups and stuff like that of the IDF and like the soldiers on the IDF and stuff like that. So this is kind of the situation. But on the other hand, if you look at Cyprus now, it's becoming also another hub for military presence of the United States and its allies. So everything is here, is close by. So from being, relatively calm, it can flip to being all-out war. And if Israel will be attacked on all these fronts at the same time, it will be a lot harder to defend ourselves than what it was in April, with 99%. We shouldn't count on these percentages to maintain and to be the same if another attack will be launched at us, especially if the Houthis and Hezbollah will take part at this attack at the same time, because we're talking about 15,000 advanced missiles just from Lebanon, from Hezbollah. And then I don't know how many the Houthis have in Yemen, because for years Iran has been supplying them with advanced weaponry. And if they are sending experts to teach other militias in Iraq and Syria how to fight the Americans, it means that they know what they're talking about, and we shouldn't, underestimate them. So
let's make some bets, Yair. What's happening in the next 7 days?
Next 7 days? Listen, it's not nice to make bets about stuff like that, but I think that Iran will shift its focus and will not launch like a big attack against Israel. I think that they will try to get an achievement by attacking Israeli installations, Israeli embassies, synagogues, or other places around the world. I think that they see that, attacking Israel directly will not be an easy task, especially with all the challenges that they have within their people, within the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. So I think that in order to save face, they're going to seek Israelis outside of the Jewish state. So that's kind of my bet. So I would really, plan and hope that the Israeli security services will focus on defending our assets around the world.
Interesting.
What's yours?
I didn't think about that. I don't think they're going to full-on attack Israel directly. I think they're going to or feint several attacks where it's going to be something that they know will be able to intercept, or up the game on Houthis in the Red Sea, or Hezbollah. That's my sense. And I think there's another plan. I just don't think it's going to play out in the next week. I think it'll be a month or two, where the Iranians are going to try to gain some kind of diplomatic win. Diplomatic win in the sense of having some kind of interim agreement saying we'll guarantee
removing
safety.
Sanctions.
Some kind, something with sanctions, something like that. Where I feel if you follow Iranian news, there's been a huge amount of discussion on like the internal financial pressure, which we discussed in the previous episode. I think they need a win in that area too, because they've been taking a beat down, like losing face internally on like how safe they are, how much they're in control, how tight intelligence is. I think they need a win also on like the public sort of stage internally in Iran. And to do that, they have to retaliate some way with Hezbollah, Houthis, maybe some like faint attack, like a weaker attack on their end. But I think longer term, 30 days, 60 days, they need some kind of achievement that they can wave, that they say, we got sanctions removed, we got some cash, we caused damage to trade routes, something where it looks like they did something as an international player, not just facing Israel. I think that's also on the table.
Yeah. No, I understand. Well, anyway, for sure, the next 7 days are going to be very, very significant. Either if we'll have any progress with the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and it seems like this is a huge effort that the Americans are adding more partners to. Let's say, you have Sisi, the president of Egypt, that joined in with the Qatari leader, together with Biden, making joint statements about a ceasefire and a deal to release the hostages and to stop the fighting. So this is something that I think will be kind of a good excuse also for the Iranians not to blow up these negotiations, and they will have some kind of maybe financial benefits or guarantees or sanctions removed to help their people. And we'll see. They're very interesting. I don't know. And as we said last week, that I hope that this time I'll be sitting with you in the studio. So I really hope that next time I'll be sitting with you in the studio again. But looks like I'll be able to do it.
Yeah, and that's sometimes, there's the expression ripping off the Band-Aid. Sometimes I almost wish, and I think many people wish, they just want to be out of the tension and the uncertainty. And they just want flights to go back to being normal. And if it takes a week or two of heightened conflict, so be it, kind of thing. Because we know what's coming, we know it's sort of looming over our heads as this never-ending threat. Let's deal with it, let's get it off the table for once. That's, I think, the Israeli public sentiment, but also people around the world are just wanting this page to be behind us. And I'd say if my personal prayer is that for our leadership to have the foresight to move quickly on a hostage deal, to move quickly on resolving the tension with the current tension with the Iranians, on move quickly, on resolving and reaching an international agreement as it relates to the Gaza Strip. Because as time delays, I mean, it feels like, oh, we're still in the summer. Oh, the winter's around the corner. We don't want to go into another winter with having countless refugees and the Gaza Strip, with soldiers fighting there. We're going back into Lebanon. We want to have this behind us. We want some kind of semblance of normal life again. I don't think the full tension is going away anytime soon, but at least on everyday life, we want to go back to living a more predictable day-to-day life.
You can plan more than 7 days ahead. You can plan the next year maybe, or not go as far as that. But Mati, you're talking about, the threats and how should people pray for the situation in Israel. So I think that what you said is very important. I think that all of us need to pray for our leaders to have wisdom. When I say wisdom, I mean godly wisdom, because what's going on here is beyond, I think, any human understanding. So we need to pray to make the right godly decisions at the right time and fast. And I think that it's also very important to state and to know that there is no other place for the Jewish people and the people of Israel other than in Israel. And despite all the conflicts and everything that's going on, I think that the safest place for Israelis is in Israel. Because we see that even if Iran will halt its attacks against Israel now, they are still heavily invested in spreading the extreme ideologies of Islam all around the world. And we're talking about London, we're seeing the demonstrations that are going on there, and we see it in university campuses, and we see agents of Hamas infiltrating the United States through the Mexico border. So if they caught 3, for sure there are dozens that are already in the United States, building up their arsenal, preparing attacks. And this is happening all over the world, not just in America. So first of all, we have a Jewish state now, because we've been comparing this war to the Second World War and to the Holocaust. So the difference now is that Israel has a state, an army. We can protect ourselves. So the people of Israel need to unite and need to support Israel and be here together. So this is kind of the prayer points of this situation.
I think there's one more thing, which is the word resilience. The public in general, people in general, you want to resolve something and you want to move away from it. But in reality in life, most problems don't go away overnight. Definitely not the type of problem that Iran is, or Hezbollah is, or Hamas. There is no quick fix, there is no one fix. And the only solution on a psychological, on a spiritual level is to say, I just recognize that this, it's not just, I recognize that this tension will remain a constant for a prolonged period of time. And I need my mind to be ready for that, my body, my family, my spiritual life to be ready for the fact that this pressure, this tension will remain for a long time to come. That doesn't mean we have to leave it at the same level it's at, but again, and I think I wish our government was better at communicating this to people, and not giving false hope and saying we'll beat Hamas. You don't completely vanquish or make a problem disappear overnight. You slowly eliminate it. You slowly manage it. People need they need the patience and they need the resilience to hold that tension in their body and their mind for a long period of time, and not allow it to destroy our everyday life, not allow it to penetrate every part of our life, but to sort of just live a manageable life even though the tension remains. And I think if we're able to do that as a people, that will be a greater victory than trying to do the bang and we're done kind of solutions. That'll show our enemies that we're strong enough to fight against them over a long period of time. Because time and time again, they say against us that those of a Western mindset, the Judeo-Christian mindset and psyche, they can't withstand, they can't wait out history the same way the Muslim or the extremist Muslim mindset can. And we need to show them that we can, that we're here for the long game, and we're here for the extended pressure and extended time, and we're not going to lose hope, we're not going to lose our happiness, not going to lose our faith because of that. And I think that would be the biggest win at this time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you're saying is possible, but it's very hard. It's very hard to live in peace and go about your day, plan for the future, while being attacked or always on constant high alert of missiles are about to come in the next 72 hours, a week or something like that. But I think that's something that, what I did, I tell you personally, when I was called to go into the Gaza Strip, so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I just stopped the car on the side and prayed that God will just give me peace. I mean, if this is from him, he can give me peace. And then I went inside, and it's like the most terrible place in the world. Bombs, gun, bullets flying all over the place. And somehow, I was peaceful. Doesn't mean that I wasn't alert, wasn't ready, but I was peaceful. So I think that, God can give you a peace that we do not understand with our human minds. It's not rational. It's something deeper than that. So if God can give us peace, then we can be alert, we can be ready, and we can be peaceful at the same time, which these three things don't usually go together. So it's kind of like an encouragement that if you don't feel peaceful, just pray and God will be with you and give it to you internally or supernaturally.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end, Yair. You hit the nail on the head. God says he's going to give us his peace. He just never said it was going to be easy. So we'll end on that note. I hope that you're in town next week. I want to say to our viewers, if anyone likes this content, make sure you subscribe and make sure you share the content. It means a lot to us. It helps a lot with the algorithm of that, invisible force behind the way YouTube and all these different platforms work. But we need you to share, we need you to like, we need you to pass this on to other people and subscribe on a regular basis. Yair, this has been fun.
Yeah,
I hope we have something.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope we have something more amusing and light to talk about next week. And I hope you're in town next week.
Yes, definitely. Definitely to all the above. So really, thanks, Mati, the one and only. It was a pleasure to have this podcast with you.
I thought it was a second and only, Yair.
You've been upgraded because you're in Jerusalem.
I'll take it. Anyway.
Okay.
Thanks, Yair. And thank you to all our viewers.
Yeah. You want to thank the viewers or should I? Or both of us?
Well, I want to say if anyone has stuck with us till this point in the show, because we've really we've been following a lot of bunny trails these last minutes. First of all, you deserve 50 points and a golden star. You're on the top list of our viewers. But I want to thank our viewers, and I want to thank everyone who's been supporting us. And we feel it deep in our hearts. We see it in the comments. We see it in people sharing. We see it in people subscribing on a regular basis and watching this content. We've seen it in people donating to help us create more content. And all of you are doing it out there in internet land. Continue doing that. It means a lot to us, and I want you to know we sit around and talk about this because we know people are supportive. We know people are loving. We know people care about what's happening here in this land. Keep it coming. Don't stop. Keep sharing, keep watching, keep donating to everything TBN is doing here in the land of Israel.
Yeah. Well, until next week, Mati. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Amen to that. Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.